from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the Practitioner Brief. James Azar here. It's July 1st, 2021. Happy July to everyone. The kickoff to my favorite weekend of the whole year, 4th of July. Who does not love 4th of July? A monumental holiday, 200 and so years of just independence for this great nation as we celebrate it over the weekend. A lot of people are taking off tomorrow and are going to be making their way to see family and friends and party on lakes and beaches across this entire great country. So for everyone, happy 4th of July. We've got a loaded show today and a very interesting one to begin with. We're going to be talking about CISA's new ransomware self-assessment security audit tool, Microsoft disclosing a NETGEAR bug. We're also going to talk about China essentially hacking the Afghan office. Also, two very interesting stories at the end. You're going to want to stay to the very end of today's show because Microsoft execs in a testimony yesterday talk about getting at least 7 to 10 government secrecy requests to get data of Americans on the cloud. And also, Putin's 4-hour telethon gets hit with a DDoS attack that shuts it down. Who's behind that one, I wonder? We'll get to more of that and all here on the show in just a moment, but this show would not be possible without the great support of our friends at KnowBeforeWistic and Ativo Networks. You can see more about them in the show notes. Let's get to some of your comments. Good morning to Harshil. Good morning to Heather. Good morning to David. Good morning to Ola. James McQuiggan says, good morning, everyone, and happy Canada Day. James, it's 4th of July, buddy. It's 4th of July weekend. I guess it's Canada Day. So happy Canada Day to the 25 people that live in Canada and are in security. I'm kidding. Happy Canada Day to all of our Canadian viewers. And I hope you're enjoying your day. Our ceremonial cup of coffee, folks. My double espresso. I hope whatever you're drinking this morning or afternoon, wherever time it is for you, it's your beverage of choice. I know Heather doesn't drink caffeine, so Heather, cheers to your water. Love coffee in the morning. There's something very special about good coffee, man. Just brightens your day. And so, yes, here we go. We've got the Canadians in full force today. Today is Canada Day. Enjoy a labetse. We'll talk about this later, James McQuiggan. Heather apparently is Canadian, and so is James. Jeez, how many Canadians are in this country? I'm kidding. I'm joking. I love you. I love all Canadians equally. So let's get right into our first story of the day. CISA is releasing a ransomware readiness assessment called an RRA, which is a new module for its cybersecurity evaluation tool. The RRA is a security audit self-assessment tool organization that for organizations that want to understand better how well they are equipped to defend against and recover from ransomware attacks targeting their information technology, operational technology, and industrial control system assets. The module was tailored. The CSET module was tailored RRA to assess varying levels of ransomware threat readiness to be helpful to all orgs, regardless of security maturity. This is going to be this is a great tool by CISA because it creates some sort of standard for ransomware readiness that really can be scalable. So it's a great little exercise to do with your team ahead of the 4th of July weekend and something to definitely take a look at, or on this awesome, apparently Canada Day as well. Good morning to Bob Henderson, who's joining us as well. Let's get to our second story here. Microsoft is disclosing a critical bug that allows takeover of NETGEAR routers. Security researchers have detailed a critical security vulnerability affecting NETGEAR DGN 2200 version 1 serious routers, which they say could be reliably abused as a jumping off point to compromise a network's security and gain unfettered access. The 3 HTTPD authentication security weaknesses with a CVSS score from 7.1 to a very critical 9.4 impact routers running firmware versions prior to version 1.0.0.60 and have since been fixed by the company in a December 2020 patch release as part of a coordinated vulnerability disclosure process. However, according to Microsoft 365 Defender research team, these types of attack are becoming more common. Users must look to secure even the single-purpose software that runs their hardware, like routers. We all know that routers tend to be the Achilles heel for a lot of people who plug it in and forget that it's even there. So the flaw, which allows accessing the router management pages using an authentication bypass, enabling an attacker to gain complete control over the router, as well as derive saved router credentials via cryptographic side channel attack, and even recover the username and password stored in the router's memory by exploiting the configuration backup restore feature. If you are using NETGEAR, and a lot of people use NETGEAR, folks, a lot of people do, get this patched up. One of the things I did early on when we switched to work from home, and at the last year I talked about it on the show, is we sent everyone in the company a questionnaire, and we asked them to let us know what router they were using. If it was their default router from their cable company, we asked them to take a picture of the back and send it to us, or fill out any information that they had. And we kept an inventory of that, and we constantly, look at that inventory of routers versus vulnerabilities and patches that come through, and then we reach out to those employees to get them to patch it, walk them through the patching process, especially now that people are remote. It's even more important because as we kind of move away from COVID and this new hybrid work model, this is going to be even more critical. Make sure if you're not doing something like this to implement it. It's really not hard. It's very easy. This also helped us identify people within our organizations that had keys to the kingdom, but maybe didn't have a proper IT network at home. And then we deployed resources to help them set that up, segment their home networks, do so many other things. And those are small investments. They cost, maybe $1,000, in total, once you buy a good router and you set it up, and even the man hours that you go to putting through to it. But it reduces risk significantly to an organization, something for everyone to consider. We'll move to our next story, and one that's very fascinating because it shows you just how far nation states will go. So according to a report from CPR, Chinese hacking groups impersonate the Afghan president to infiltrate government agencies across the nation and nearby countries. The president of Afghanistan, President Ashraf Ghani, is being used as a lure in a spear phishing email designated to infiltrate government agencies in the country of Afghanistan, of which a successful attack has led to the compromise of the Afghan National Security Council. It is thought that an advanced persistent group called Indigo Zebra is responsible. The Chinese-speaking cyber attackers have targeted former Soviet republics previously, as noted by Kaspersky. Dupe email samples seen by CPR pretend to be from the president's office and ask for an urgent review of modification to a document relating to an upcoming press conference. The researchers say that these emails are sent from the compromised email inboxes of past high-profile victims. The file is a password-protected .rar archive named nscpressconference.rar. If a victim opens the file, they receive a Windows executable, which deploys a malware dropper, and the XCon backdoor, which maintains persistence by setting a registry key. The backdoor then is able to download and upload files, run commands issued through a command and control server, and steal data. These attacks have been seen also by Chinese APT-10 Stone Panda, and may maliciously execute network utility tools for reconnaissance. Some of the malwares that have been used are MetaPredator, Poison Ivy, XDown, and XCon's backdoor. There are also political entities that have been victim of this in Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan as well. So they are definitely targeting some serious players, but this is no different. China has a Belt and Road Initiative. Afghanistan is part of that Belt and Road Initiative, and for them to gain any intel over how Afghanistan views their foreign relations and where China could take advantage of it is definitely up their wheelhouse. David says, you are one of the few cyber leaders I hear that are taking a proactive stance in this fashion on work from home. About our previous story, yes, I'm very proactive when it comes from work from home. I think that I'd rather spend $1,000 today securing 200 people in my organization than spending millions of dollars in recovery later on because of just complacency. Heather says indigo zebra equals unicorn. might be Heather. Wondering how many companies would make the investment to buy remote employees a new router. I think a lot. And I think that's the one thing, Heather. I think a lot of companies and a lot of CISOs would totally go for that if they can get buy-in from executive leadership and if they can build a strong case for it. And that's one of those where, we started, and I looked at this a year ago as our most critical employees, the people who have the keys to the kingdom, who are most likely to be targeted by our adversaries. Those were the people who we did that to. And then over time, we started doing it for others down chain. And eventually, I think we got like 65, 68% opt-in in a program like this, which is, what we can ask for. It's really worth it. So, but again, China is up to its usual malicious activities. And now we'll move on to two, I think, very, very interesting stories. One, this broke yesterday. So Tom Bird, who's the Microsoft Corporate Vice President for Customer Security and Trust, was telling members of a House Judiciary Committee that federal law enforcement in recent years has been presenting the company with anywhere between 2,400 to 3,500 secrecy orders a year, or about 7 to 10 a day. They've become routine orders where law enforcement targets an American's email, text messages, and other sensitive data stored in the cloud. This is pretty big. Microsoft's been warning about this for a long time. Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, a while back said in a Washington Post opinion piece that prosecutors too often are exploiting technology to abuse our fundamental freedoms. And current AG Merrick Garland has said that the Justice Department will abandon its practice of seizing reporter records and formalize that stance soon. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler said in opening remarks Wednesday that the Justice Department took advantage of an outdated policy on digital data searches to target journalists and others in leak investigations. Nadler, who said that reforms are needed now to guard future overreach by federal prosecutors, an idea also that is bipartisan for a change, but one that we all as Americans should be paying very, very close attention to. It used to be that our data was stored on our computers, and in order for people to get that data, they needed to get a search warrant and come and knock on our doors and obtain it. Now, with everything on the cloud, that data is readily available and one secrecy order away, and you can get all of that data regardless to anything. This is a wake-up call. I'll get to some of your comments here. Heather says more should be like you. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. Morning to Matt Lee. Seems some leadership does not want to open the Pandora box in their organization. Yeah, some of that is absolute politics, David. Some of it is very political, and other part of it is some organizations' culture doesn't allow. They don't see security as a business function. They rather see it as kind of like the Department of No. So they're very worrisome of giving them that kind of access. Roger, good morning. Thank you for joining us. He says, as a general case, people underestimate the likelihood of adverse events and thus justify not making investment, machine guarding, condo structure, malware. Yeah, a lot of times the risk that's calculated is flawed because of the person who's calculating the risk. So it's very much worth it if you invest hundreds of millions of dollars in your security program, but then you leave your end user completely exposed, and you go through 10 to 12 events a week that are serious events. I'm not talking about false positives and whatnot, but I'm talking about serious events that require forensics. I think you've got a real issue there as well. And our final comment here from Heather, I'm really curious how much effort it takes to get executive buy-in for a proactive step like that. Depends on the organization and culture is what I would say. Really depends on that. Our final story of the day. So for those of you who don't know, my favorite dictator, the guy who's been president longer than I've been an adult, his name is Vladimir Putin. He's been leading Russia since about 1999. So do the math, folks. I was still a minor when Putin took over power. Putin does this very Kremlin-friendly media 4-hour telethon where he answers people's questions who call in to talk to their beloved democratic president by the name of Vladimir Putin. And yesterday, in the 4-hour broadcast, they kept facing, guess what, DDoS attacks. According to Russia 24, that after a caller from the Kubas region called in experiencing connection issues, Putin said, "Are you joking? Seriously? Turns out we have hackers in Kubas," according to Putin. Russia's largest telecom provider, Rostelecom, confirmed the attacks to the news agency, saying the measures were being taken to block these illegitimate activities. Putin's spokesperson said that the origin of the attack was unclear. And while we are taking a hard stance against Russia, they're not really attributing it to anyone. And even let's say it was the US that did the DDoS attack. Let's say it was, Cyber Command messing with them, kind of, a shot across the bow of Putin. They'll never admit that because they would look weak in front of their people, and Putin would never do that. They'll probably blame it on some poor Russian up-and-coming threat actor group and prosecute them than ever admit that it was foreign. Ed says that Putin think he was immune. I think so, yeah. I think Putin's kind of like the Godfather in Godfather 1, where, he thought that he can walk around without any bodyguards and nothing was going to happen to him because, he's the Godfather. And then, we know the story. Salonzo hired a few hitmen to hit him, and he survived. And Putin's been like that as well. There's a lot of opposition to Putin inside of Russia from a geopolitical perspective, so this could be internal as well. Let's not dismiss that. There's a lot of people in Russia vying for their freedoms. So, and kind of want Putin gone. So we'll see what happens there. Folks, that's it for our practitioner brief today. Later today, CISO Talk in just a few hours. I've got a very special episode with a friend of mine from GitLab who's a security researcher. We talk a lot about how security researchers and CISOs should be communicating and what they were talking about. It's a very, very special episode. So you can go in and check that out. Subscribe to the CISO Talk podcast at 1 p.m. We have CISO Thursdays today with the awesome Renee Small, Chris Fallon, and the magnificent Naomi Buckwalter. You can check that out on Renee Small's LinkedIn page. Go and check it out there, or go to Breaking Into Cybersecurity's YouTube page to catch that at 1 p.m. Eastern today. I'll be off on Monday for 4th of July holiday, so I will not be doing the practitioner brief on Monday. We will be on Clubhouse for the other side of cyber Monday morning, so you can tune into that. That's at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can go and check that out and follow the other side of cyber on Clubhouse. Also, Tech Town Square last night. If you didn't catch it, you should go back and check it. A great episode. We talked about could blockchain solve the idea of truth? A very, very interesting concept. We didn't come to any consensuses, but it was a very, very fruitful discussion about blockchain technology. And with that being said, folks, enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Go celebrate with your loved ones. Look at our flag. Appreciate the freedoms that our nation allows us to celebrate in, and understand that freedom's only one generation away from being taken. And so we got to continually fight for it in every aspect of our lives. I'm grateful to all the brave men and women who, because of them, were able to celebrate 4th of July still free from 1776 to today. So for everyone who's celebrating 4th of July this weekend, have a safe weekend. Enjoy your time with your friends and family. Take some time away from everything. And most importantly, folks, over this weekend, remember, a lot of phishing attacks for 4th of July. So stay sharp and stay cyber safe. Cheers, everyone. Have a great weekend.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.